opportunities don't come easy. Inequalities fueled by the system. As the sun gets hotter, none of us is safe anymore. As the sun gets hotter, none of us is safe anymore. The islands are calling, climate change is real. Families are suffering, held against their will. Time is slipping like sands from my head. We silently weapon, it's never the same anymore. The toxicity not only runs in the seas, but in humanity as well. The air becomes heavier to breathe, to breathe.
I know they ain't deaf, I know they ain't blind. Why can't they admit it's a threat to mankind? Ignorance, commitments, destruction's in sight. It's always too late if we're ignoring today. Live for tomorrow even though it seems wrong. We only got one life, one planet to call home. Hope the leaders understand the weight of this song. We're on Mother Earth's side. Which side you're on? Come on.
The islands are calling, climate change is real. Families are suffering, held against their will. Time is slipping like sands from my head. We silently weapon, it's never the same anymore. The toxicity not only runs in the seas, but in humanity as well. The air becomes heavier to breathe, to breathe.
Yeah. My generation, yeah, we speaking up, yes. As the sea level rising up now, my heritage now under threats like never before. If you may not stand up now, then who now best stand up for you, me? And we must act and take action now. The can't go run like a refugee. Represent the Pacific, that's my island home. Time to make the necessary moves, here we go. Politics aside, we don't want no more ecocide. Let's fight the climate rises, facing planet Earth. Calling out to the global community. Time for you to stick openly on climate change.
The islands are calling, climate change is real. Families are suffering, held against their will. Time is slipping like sands from my
welcome. My name is Carol Coons, and I use the pronoun she, her, and I'm really glad to be with all of you here today. This congregation is served by the Reverend Alex De Silva Soto, who's away from the pulpit today. So this service is brought to you by the Social Justice Team, and I'm joined by Barbara. Before we enter our sacred space, let's have a few announcements. Welcome to our folks joining us on Zoom or YouTube, where you'll find automated closed captioning for those of you who, like me, could use a hearing assist. My hearing aids went through the washer last week, late in the week. They are at the repair shop, so if you try to talk to me afterwards and I go, huh? Speak louder. But not in person, we have assisted listening devices, which are in the welcome hall. Are you enjoying coffee hour? Yeah. It's so great to have back that time for conversation and, of course, the delicious baked goods that people generously bring. And let's give a shout out to our welcoming crew, the fabulous Mary and Val. Not only greet at the front door, but brew the coffee and clean up after. And there's always room for you if you'd like to help out and just talk to them or any of us afterwards, and we'll get you set up. And while we're at it, the tech crew, Amy and John, we could not do this without you. And they too would welcome assistance and will provide training and welcome you to join them. Val and John Bowman will be offering SFUU 101 gatherings in early spring. It's a 3-part series, and it's meant for newer members or those considering membership to learn more about UUism, SFUU, and what it means to be a member. Right after the service today, grab a snack, come on back in here, and let's learn and work together on how we can do our part to promote our values in the upcoming elections. Yes, it's the return of UU the vote. What do you think? Can we aspire to be a good trouble congregation? Are you ready to step up and help lead the effort? This will be a short meeting, we promise, and we'll be looking for your thoughts about how we can work together to make our contribution to the effort. And lastly, on March 3rd at 1 o'clock, PICA, that's Placer Earth Care Action, will be offering an electric vehicle extravaganza at the Auburn Congregational Church. And if you're thinking of making the switch from gas, this is a great opportunity to not only learn about EVs, but they'll have a lot of EVs in the parking lot. The owners will be there to talk to. So there's more information in the e-beacon that came out last Friday. Now, if you'd please make sure your phone is silenced so we can be fully present to one another. I invite you to join me in the acknowledgement of the sacred land that we're gathered upon, the ancestral land of the Nisenan Southern Maidu people. And in this sacred space, let us worship together. Will you join me in just taking a deep breath in and then let it out? Can you feel your body relax? Can you feel your mind move away from thoughts of daily matters and be ready to connect with the universal and spiritual? We're here together, individually and as a group. We're connected in the recognition of the inherent worth of all people, of each of you, and of me, and of everyone around the globe. We're united in our quest for peace with justice and equity. Each of us is seeking and learning, and we're in different places in our spiritual journeys. And everyone is welcome here. Let's worship together. And I'd like to invite Maureen to share her stewardship testimony.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's great to be together today. So I've been a member of SFUU since 1999, about 24 years. I discovered UUism in Sacramento when I went there with my daughter, who was upset that she hadn't been raised in religion. And I thought, and then I realized there was a faith that had a principle rather than a doctrine, which I didn't know about. And the principles spoke to me. And I quickly became a member. But when I got here to SFUU, I knew I had found my home. You have been a place where I can bring my whole self, something that I treasure. Worked at the county most of my career, and as a bisexual woman, I was not always out for different reasons, but here you knew me and loved me for who I was. In recovery, outspoken at times, with a non-traditional family, I understood when I joined that I should come to Sunday service when I could because my presence mattered, contribute financially as a member, contribute with my time and energy to just help the church function, be on a committee, be on the board of trustees, and then importantly also engage in an activity that nourished my soul. It kind of felt like the 12-step rules that I had been, practicing. And so I thought, okay, this will work for me. One SFU program that I've always loved that fed my soul was our small group ministry. This is a program, for those of you that don't know, that includes small groups of people and a volunteer facilitator who meet regularly and share their responses to life and spiritual questions. The unique process is when individual shares, the other members practice deep listening rather than giving feedback or opinions. I cherished those groups and learned about other members at a much deeper level. And I look forward to this program coming back to us in the future. In addition to actively participating in this community, I've gone to the UUA General Assembly several times, and the first one was in Long Beach, where I experienced 7,000 other UUs singing and worshiping together. It was amazing. It's there that I also found out about the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, which we're talking about today, and the amazing initiatives they have sponsored to help both the greater world community and also addressing critical issues in the United States. I learned that Reverend Dr. William Schultz, who was previously president of the UUA, also had served as the president and executive director of Amnesty International before he was the president of the UUA, and then served as the president of the UUSC, and afterwards he became an emeritus member. I guess what amazed me was the level of knowledge and experience we have in our leaders who coordinate these important initiatives that make a difference. I feel like SFUU does a lot in our community, and I appreciate our partnerships and involvement in important issues. Currently, I work to reduce the number of unhoused in our classroom community by looking at solutions through advocacy for safe sleep that allows people to sleep in their cars at designated church sites, and increasing our very low-income housing. I love being a part. I also love the work others do to inspire me to continue to reduce my carbon footprint. I love being challenged to do more, even though it's hard. And I love that we have committee meetings today that only meet on Zoom that are environmentally friendly that way. But I also love being part of an organization that takes our values to another level through the UUSC. So the impact is bigger than we could ever make as one small congregation. But with others, we can contribute and see the resulting impacts that we will see later in our service. Carol, can you light the chalice for us as we go forward? Out of the flames of fear, we rise with courage of our deepest convictions to stand for justice, inclusion, and peace.
Out of the flames of scrutiny, we rise to proclaim our faith. We hope to heal a fractured and hurting world.
Out of the flames of doubt, we rise to embrace the mystery, wonder, and awe of all there is and all that is yet to be.
Out of the flames of hate, we rise with the force of love that celebrates our shared communities. Out of the flames, we rise. Thank you.
Please rise as you're willing and able to sing hymn number 318, We Would Be One.
to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other, to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow, a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service, with love and justice strive to make us free.
We would be one in building for tomorrow, a nobler world than we have known today. Oh, we are living in difficult times. We see so much suffering in our own town, with people sleeping outside in the cold, wet weather. And we see suffering across the world where people face starvation and violence and live in the midst of war. Who doesn't feel overwhelmed, frightened, and helpless? Don't you sometimes just want to get in bed and pull the covers over your head? But as Unitarian Universalists, we're called to respond. And for me, and I bet for you too, responding is so much more than duty or obligation. It's work that nourishes my spirit. Part of that is the joy in the feeling of community, of working together for something bigger than myself, and knowing that I am not alone, but that I'm part of something. Another part is the feeling of authenticity and vitality when I'm living in congruence with my values. And let's not forget the powerful feeling of accomplishment when the work that we do has a positive result and we can see that we've made a difference. What in your life is saying yes to you? Who is waiting for you to join their work or waiting to join yours? Today, we're going to learn about the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, which supports human rights and works to relieve human suffering caused by natural and human-made disasters. Through the Guest at Your Table program, we have a very personal introduction to this work and the opportunity to contribute to this work by raising funds. So in just a couple of minutes, youth from our congregation will be handing out this year's Guest at Your Table boxes. Please take one home, invite those guests to your dinner table, and over the course of the next month, fill the boxes with loose change. On March 31st, which is Easter Sunday, bring your boxes back to church, and your coins and my coins and the coins from people in other congregations will add up to dollars. And together, we will support this vital work. And so now, if any youth who are interested would come forward, we've got baskets of boxes, and there's one for each family. And while we're doing that, I want to give one more thank you to our musicians. We appreciate their being here and playing for us.
And for Story for All Ages. Come down, hear a story. It's for all of you too, so. And it starts like all good stories with once upon a time. So, once upon a time, there was a teacher, and her name was Sophie, and she lived in a town not like our own, much like our own. And she had been a teacher for so long that the kids, the first kids she had in her class, grew up, and they had kids, and they sent their kids to her. So she was on the next generation of students, and this is for Sophie. And nearly everyone in the town knew Sophia, and they loved her. They loved her not only because she was an excellent teacher, but also because she was extremely kind. She was very, very kind. So one day she went to work, and she found on her desk a note. And she opened up the note, and it said, "Dear Sophia, I will be around tomorrow. I wonder if I might stop by your house for tea tomorrow afternoon. Your friend, God." What? At first, Sophia thought, well, this has got to be a joke. And then she realized, well, if it's a joke, it's not very funny. And she couldn't think of anyone who would play a joke like that on her. So she then thought, what if it's not a joke? Oh, was God really going to come to her house the next day? Oh, if they were, then I better get ready. So she went home, and on her way home, she stopped by the store, and she got herself a big mat and said, "Welcome." She put the mat outside her front door. She went inside, and she cleaned that house from top to bottom. And then she went out to her garden, and she picked some fresh flowers, and she put them around in her living room, and she cleaned, and she cleaned, and she cleaned, and she cleaned, until everything was sparkling, totally sparkling. In the morning the next day, she realized, oh, I don't know what God likes to eat. What if they're going to stay longer than just for the tea? So she started immediately baking some bread, and then she thought, oh, they might stay for dinner, so I better make a casserole. So she threw a casserole together, and then she went and she made a fruit salad for some dessert. So maybe they would like something that was sweet, so she baked some cookies. And then she thought, what about that tea? Was it going to be hot tea, or should it be cold tea, like iced tea? Hot tea, iced tea? I don't know. I better make both. Oh, and I think lemonade would be good. Don't you think lemonade would be good? And you said you like the tea, so I better make that too. I'm just so nervous. She was just so nervous. She didn't know what to expect. God was coming for some tea in the afternoon. There was a knock at the door. Her heart went took a big breath. Shut the door really slowly, and there was the mayor. The mayor said, "Hello, Sophia. I was just walking by, and I smelled this really great smell of baking bread." And so Sophia said, "Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Come in, come in. I'm expecting a very important guest that you might like to meet. Please come in and make yourself at home." So Sophia and the mayor sat down and were having this discussion, a really nice discussion, when there's another knock at the door. Her heart went and then she took a deep breath. She opened at the door real slow, and she looked out, and it was all the kids from her class at the door. And she said, "Hello, it's Sophia. We were walking by, and we smell this like smell of cookies. Are you making cookies in there? It smells so delicious." And Sophia said, "Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Come in, come in, come in, come in. I'm expecting a very important guest that you might like to meet. So come on inside. Come on. Help yourself to cookies." The children sat down with the mayor and were giving him some very well-needed advice, when all of a sudden, the door, and she opened the door slowly, and it was the men's group from SFUU. "Hello, Sophia. We heard the tea kettle and all that laughter. We thought that you might be having a party. Are you having a party?" So I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're coming, come in. I'm expecting a very important guest that you might like to meet. And so come on in and make yourselves at home. All afternoon, people came by your house, knock at the door, and they heard all these happy sounds, they were lured in by the yummy smells, and the townspeople filled her house. They filled the upstairs, the downstairs, they were out in the front yard, they were out in the backyard, and as they got hungry, they made dinner together. And they ate as the sun set and the moon rose. It was a great party, really great party. People played games, they told stories, they prepared food together, they played music together, they talked, it was really great. Sophia had such a nice time that she completely forgot about her important guest. And even as she waved goodbye to all of her friends, she felt only contentment for having had such a lovely party. In the morning, she woke up and suddenly remembered everything. She was confused. What happened to God? During her walk to work, she tried to figure out what happened. She smiled and waved at all the people who had been at her party and thought, I should really do that again sometime. She arrived at work, and surprise, there was another note on her table. There it is. See what it says. What do you think it's from? Dear Sophia, I had such a wonderful time yesterday. The bread was delicious. The cookies were divine. Tea mixed with lemonade is my very favorite. Thank you for being such a wonderful host. I hope we can do it again soon. Love, God. So, what do you think that story is about? I think that, it shows how people, whether they believe in God or not, can totally be transformed by hospitality and practicing that hospitality, even if your guests are unexpected, not the ones you were expected. So today, did you all get boxes? Any box? You want a box? You guys want a box? Did you get one? Okay. All right. Today, you're going to have guests at your table boxes, but by placing them at your table where you eat, you'll be practicing hospitality for 4 different guests. Every year they choose 4 different guests. And this year, during the service, we're going to talk about those guests and what they're doing for the world. And when you periodically slip a coin into the box, if you had a box, I'll put a coin in your box. But I'll put it in my box. You slip a coin in your box, in the top of your box, and when you do that, you're supporting the work of your guests as they fight for human rights and to show up for really vulnerable people who need it. So that's what this is all about. This little box that we'll have at our table for about a month. And there's a brochure that I only have 25, so we share with kids. They can bring them home to their parents. These are the stories of the people, the 4 people that are going to be showing. Oh, well, Izzy, do you want to? She might want to share. Okay. Okay. So, thank you for coming and hearing the story. Kids. If you want to go to class, you can. If you want to stay and hear about the 4 guests, you can stay here as well. So, should we sing? Sing. Okay. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere you may go. Sorry.
Each week, we share things in our lives that touch us. Sometimes they are joyous, and sometimes they are sad or hard things. At the start of the service, at the start of each service, this book, the Book of Joys and Sorrows, is in the foyer for you to write down what you would like to share with this congregation. You can also email your joy and sorrows to joyandsorrows@mysfuu.org. By sharing your joys, they are multiplied and shared across our community. And by sharing your sorrows, your community will hold you with their hearts, their meditations, or their prayers. If you are sharing for another member, please be sure you have gotten their permission to share. So this week we have a couple of sorrows. We lift up our concern with Patty Lethbridge. She's not here with us today, our music director. So please keep Patty in your thoughts as she helps her daughter with her MS most recent challenges. And we also have a remembrance from Eric Howe and David Marcus, who wish to honor the life of the Reverend Jane Eller Isaacs, who died on Valentine's Day. Jane and her late husband Rob served as co-ministers at the First Unitarian Church of Oakland for 17 years, and at Unity Church Unitarian of St. Paul, Minnesota for 22 years. She and Rob were deeply involved in social justice work throughout their ministries and mentored countless Unitarian Universalist ministers and lay leaders. May her memory be a blessing. And John and Val Bowman are also asking for prayers for a dear friend who is in Iowa for a peaceful passing to the great mystery. And we have a joy for Jen Twerpy, who's not here, but Mary Lou wants to ask everyone to help her celebrate her 70th birthday, which is February 27th. So now, 27th, so now you just know in advance. We also hold in our hearts the people impacted by the many conflicts around our world and in our own communities, where fear and hate cause people to lose track of compassion and love for one another, but also the love of this community, where we find comfort, joy, and support to help us with the hard things about life. Let us pause for a moment to hold these spoken and unspoken sorrows and joys in our hearts.
Sweet Spirit of light and love, sweet Spirit of light and love, sweet Spirit of light and love, spread your wings and shelter me. Spirit of sweet Spirit of light in the darkness of night. Spirit of light, my spirit takes flight. Spirit of light, raise up my wings and shelter me. Spirit of light, Spirit of light, in the darkness of night. Spirit of light, my spirit takes flight. Spirit of light, raise up my wings and shelter me. Spread your wings and shelter me.
Morning, my name is Barb, if you haven't figured it out already. I'm so thankful that you're all here this morning. And today we're going to tell you about a little bit more about the Guests at Your Table program and the 4 guests that are going to be featured during this month while we're collecting coins. But first I talk a little bit about human rights because that's what the UUSC, Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, is about. And I looked up, the United Nations actually have a Declaration of Human Rights. And in the first sentence of the preamble, there's like 20 different, it's a long document. But in the first sentence, it states that the recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. And I'm hoping that many of you hear the echoes of our first 2 principles, principles in that, which affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, echoing that first preamble of the human rights. As UUs, part of our work is in the realm of human rights, and the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee is just one vehicle for us to do that. Pursuing liberation is the theme of this year's Guest at Your Table program. And when you are free, you enjoy basic human rights, most likely without even thinking about it. But not everyone has that freedom. They must be liberated, so pursuing liberation, they must be liberated to receive their human rights. Sometimes they liberate themselves, and sometimes they are liberated with the help of others. So liberation is often achieved through acts of resistance, and in the words of the UU minister, Reverend Julian Jamaica Soto, resistance takes courage, resistance is justice, it is humane to resist. To echo this morning's chalice lighting words, out of the flames of fear, we rise with courage of our deepest convictions to stand for justice, inclusion, and peace. The Guest at Your Table program is one opportunity to support the work of grassroots organizations engaged in fighting for human rights, often through acts of resistance. It is a chance to learn the stories of 4 people connected to the UUSC as if we were sharing a meal together. Today, I'm going to briefly introduce you to these 4 people that will receive your liberating hospitality. And each time you put coins in your box, you're supporting real people engaged in real human rights work. So our first guest is Dr. Margaret Amaka Ohianuak. There she is. And she represents a group called the Alliance for Black Justice in Poland. And this group supports a diverse mix of Black, African, and Afro-descended people fleeing to Poland from Russia's full-scale invasion of the Ukraine. And racism, sexism, homophobia, and a host of other issues challenge evacuees, not only as they flee, but as they try to settle into their new locales. So Margaret and her others in the Alliance for Black Freedom in Poland help evacuees navigate issues of assimilation, racism, citizenship, while building community and providing direct support. Resistance takes courage. Resistance is justice. It is humane to resist. Since its founding, the Alliance for Black Freedom in Poland has provided transportation between cities and border areas, legal advice for those who stay in Poland, and they also are connecting people with healthcare and accommodations. This is the real work that they are doing that we can help support with our coins. All right, our next guest, our second guest, is Lydia Palma, and she's the coordinator of the National Temporary Protected Status, or TPS Alliance, right here in the United States. TPS is a life-saving immigration program that allows foreign nationals to remain in the United States if, while they are here, something catastrophic happened back in their home country, and that prevented their safe return. So what kind of catastrophes could that be? War would be one. Famine is another. Hurricanes, natural disasters, and even epidemics. So anything like that that would make it unsafe, because they have the right to have a safe place to live. And if we send them back, we're violating their human rights. So returning immigrants to their home countries would be a violation of the human rights to a safe place to live. So TPS, or Temporary Protected Status, protects people from deportation and allows them to work legally while they remain in the US. That's a really good program for these people to get settled into where they are and to be productive, both for us and for them. During the Trump administration, they attempted to end the TPS for nearly all the beneficiaries, so that's 330,000 people that they tried to take temporary protected status away from. And many of these people have been living in the US for decades. They had raised a family, they got married, had a family, they were working, they paid taxes, they had businesses here. Lydia and the National TPS Alliance responded by organizing these TPS holders to strategize and advocate for themselves. They visited their congressman and demanded the right to live with their families in the US. And they also, the National TPS Alliance, which Lydia is part of, sponsored these Liberty buses, which tour the United States all around to put faces to the people, because these TPS is just a word, but when you see the faces of these people, and you realize these are real people like you and me who are trying to live here with their families. And so I'd like you to meet one of these people. We're going to show a little video in a bit. Her name is Claudia Lainez. She's originally from El Salvador. And she's a TPS holder. She traveled on a Liberty bus with her daughter, who is a US citizen.
There was a big high wall there that tried to stop me. A sign was painted, said private property.
Bueno, yo llegué en el 94, después de haber crecido en medio de la guerra civil, que duró muchos años en El Salvador. Toda mi familia había salido del país debido a la violencia y yo era la única que quedaba. Entonces llegué en ese tiempo. Yo soy de San Francisco, he vivido en el área de la Bahía por 26 años. He trabajado y he construido una familia. Actualmente vivo en Oakland con mi hija Stephanie.
Since the court's decision, I've been shocked and anxious and really sad because I had a lot of hope, and I thought because we had won the first time that it would happen again. I didn't expect the appeal to go that way. So I'm terrified, but that's not going to stop us from fighting. This country, their home, they are Americans, and there should be a path to residency by now. I am sick and tired of trying to be perfect and accepted by a country that should have always accepted me for who I am. I am 20 years old and I am registered to vote this November. I will be voting because the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness have never been applied to Black, brown, Asian, indigenous, or queer people in this country. Our lives are at stake. Do you think that by doing this that it's over for us? We have been fighting our whole lives and we're not done. If anything, we're just getting started. Thank you.
Resistance takes courage. Resistance is justice. It is humane to resist. Although the Biden administration has expanded the TPS program, Lydia and the National TPS Alliance continue to advocate for the dignity of the TPS beneficiaries and an equitable path to permanent residency for these people. So this land is your land on its most basic level is a song about inclusion and equality. Vicky is going to lead us, I think, right? Lead us in singing in solidarity with TPS holders. The words will be projected for you on the screen. Please rise as you are willing and able.
Your love is shining on from California to New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream water. This land was gave you and me. As I went walking down the highway, I saw the glory that in the skyway
take up an offering. And it's good to remind ourselves from time to time that the offering is symbolic as well as practical. It's not a stale habit, but an opportunity to recommit to the spiritual home and to one another. We pass the plate during our worship service to make a community expression of thanks for the blessing of abundance. Our offering says that the act of giving is as essential to our spiritual well-being as anything else we do here on Sunday mornings. And as part of our ethic of generosity, we split our monthly collection with a local community organization aligned with our values. And this month, it's Growing Peace Camp, begun many years ago by our own champion of peace, Millie Livingston. And it's still growing strong here in Auburn for 1 week every summer. My grandson got to go for the first time this past August, and I was just blown away by the quality of the program. It's run by Natalie Zapata of Auburn Hip Hop Congress. The cost to attend is very reasonable, but Natalie's commitment is that every child will be able to go regardless of their ability to pay. And so over half of the kids who go have some form of free or reduced registration fee. That's what our contributions help make that possible for kids. But you may choose, however, where your offerings go. You can choose to share 50-50, donate 100% to the church, 100% to the partner. The choice is always yours. This morning, offering will now be given and received in the spirit of abundance and gratitude.
Something happened here. What is exactly clear? He left his man, he's got a gun, it's over there, and it's telling me I've got to be there. I think it's time we stop. Yeah, what's that sound? Everybody know what's going down. Think of me, what's going down? There's battle lines being drawn. If what is right, if everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their minds, and they're getting so much resistance from behind. I say stop, yeah, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. We better look what's going down. Yeah. I really like having a bass guitar. But if they believe there are 1,000 people in the streets, they're singing songs and they carry inside. They won't mistake, won't break, or outside. I think it's time we stop. Yeah, what's that sound? Everybody know what's going on. Paranoia strikes deep. Oh, into your life it will reach. You stop when you are always afraid. If you step out of line, the man comes and take you away. You better stop, yeah. What's that sound? Everybody know what's going. You better stop, yeah. What's that sound? Everybody know what's going.
a song from 1966. Do the math.
Me dijo, Adelita ya se fue, Quique, ¿verdad? ¿Para dónde vos? Le digo yo, no, le digo, no se fue, le digo. Anda trabajando, pero no me dijo nada. Nunca me dijo que se iba. Tal vez porque sabe que yo no lo iba a dejar que se fuera. Porque yo ya sabía que era un camino muy peligroso ahí.
Ellos se fueron en la segunda semana de abril. Yo le había contado que estaba bien difícil, pero a veces las necesidades son más fuertes que el miedo.
México es lindo y querido, muy, muy bonito, pero también es un camino demasiado arriesgado, que quieras o no tenemos que pasarlo, pues, ¿verdad? Porque todos los emigrantes pasamos por lo mismo. Nosotros no somos unos delincuentes, pero nos dan una persecución tremenda como que fuéramos unos animales salvajes.
Right now, people migrating from Central America, Mexico, and other parts of the world are in peril. Not only must they endure an arduous journey to their destinations, but they also must deal with injustice and discrimination when they arrive. Emilia Alvarez Icaza, the Executive Secretary of the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, says this of these migrants.
They leave because of poverty. They leave because of violence. They leave because of starvation. They go out of necessity. When people migrate by choice, by free will, it is a right. When people migrate out of necessity, because of unsafe conditions, violence, poverty, it is a violation of a right.
So your third guest is Ana Lorena Delgadillo, who works for Fundación para la Justicia, which was established to uphold the rule of law in Mexico.
Their purpose of this group is to ensure access to justice and due process for individuals and their families impacted by human rights violations. They serve families like Quique's mother and Jose's wife, who just spoke on that video that we watched.
Quique and Jose were murdered as they were migrating through Mexico along with 47 others. And their family had no idea what happened to them until this foundation stepped in to help. So the Foundation for Justice's work involves looking at serious human rights violations. They look at migration and migration policy, violence against women, and creating public policies to strengthen the rule of law. Resistance takes courage. Resistance is justice. It is humane to resist. When you place coins in your guest at your table boxes, you support the Foundation for Justice's work, which includes establishing a regional network of civil society organizations to track the forced disappearance of migrants and providing aid to families of disappeared migrants in Mexico and Central America.
So we have one more guest to go, and this guest is from the Pacific Islands. His name is
Sebastiano Patalicio. He is the Vice President of Pacific Islands Students Fighting Climate Change, a group of youth activists from Pacific Island nations battling the impacts of climate change. As young people, they are focused on intergenerational equity because they recognize that they are inheriting a world warmed by fossil fuels that were burned long before they were even born. Youth voices are often marginalized by international processes, so by showing guest at your table hospitality to this group, you will be helping them assert their voices and express their frustration at the injustices that they are inheriting, Let's watch a short video clip showing how this group joined the campaign to get the United Nations General Assembly to adopt a resolution calling on the International Court of Justice to issue an advisory opinion on climate change and human rights.
The people of the Pacific are on a voyage to save our homes and the rights of vulnerable communities everywhere. And we have a message for the leaders of the world and the UN General Assembly. Climate change is causing a human rights crisis, affecting the livelihoods and health of millions. This crisis is the greatest challenge of our time, and it needs the attention of the world's highest court. To protect the world's most vulnerable from the threat of climate change, the International Court of Justice must issue an advisory opinion on climate change and human rights. What does this mean for Pacific people? This means the protection of our homes, our livelihoods, and our culture. This is why we are on this voyage. This is why we are on this canoe.
It is time for the international community to hear us. We must be united as one people and one ocean. At this year's Pacific Islands Forum Leaders Meeting, all member states endorsed the campaign for an advisory opinion led by the Vanuatu government. Now the Pacific sets sail as one people united by one ocean, speaking with a unified voice. One voice that carries the legacy of our ancestors and the survival of our descendants. So here we are, on this land, on this ocean, in our canoes, asking the rest of the world to join us. We are asking international leaders to show us that they value the rights of vulnerable frontline communities the world over. This voyage may have started in the Pacific, but it is a fight to protect the basic human rights of people all over the world.
By taking a box today and returning it at the end of March, you have an opportunity to invite these young people from the Pacific, the migrants from Central America and Mexico, the TPS holders in the United States, and the evacuees escaping war-torn Ukraine to your table. Each time you give, may your spirit be nourished and your values given life by aiding the social justice work of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. Now, please stand as you're willing and able to sing our closing hymn, number 1008 in the Teal Hymnal, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
please join us in our words to extinguish the chalice. As we go forward, may we hear and peace to the